The Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome on into the den. No Ku'ulei Agbayani once again, but we do have Zor Ned once again, along with our Michael Lascaro. Paul Brecht bringing you all the action after what was a packed-out weekend in sports, both here in Hawaii and back on the continent. A really exciting show coming on up for you guys to talk about all of those things. We got some NBA Finals chatter coming on up. Zor's prediction about the Thunder taking Game 4 came true. We'll see what he has to say about Game 5, especially being that he still had confidence in the Pacers despite predicting a Thunder victory. We'll discuss that a little bit more later on. We've got some local commitments in the football realm that our Michael Lascaro has been all over, and of course so much more, along with is there something going on today, Michael? Oh right, the UHAD confirmation, I believe, is today, or potentially could be today. Either way, how you gentlemen doing this morning, this weekend? How was your weekend, Michael? What'd you do? I was busy. I'll tell the beautiful people a little bit about that. What'd you do this weekend, Michael? How are you?
Well, it was a very sad weekend because the Indiana Pacers had a chance to go up 3-1 on the series, which would have been really good, but they lost on a Friday, so I had to sulk about it for the next 3 days, and it's still going on. But yeah, it's I think on Friday's show I was wearing some Indiana Pacers gear. I think that is a bit of a curse. So I am in almost semi-business-like attire, I guess.
Fair enough. Zor, how was your weekend? What'd you do? Anything fun? I know I already asked you this off air, but I suppose not everybody is going out and about. What'd you do this weekend?
I didn't really do much. I just kind of relaxed at home, watched the game on Friday, and kind of just chilled. To be honest, it's a good weekend. Not too hectic. Had to recover from camp.
Oh, hopefully you were able to recover from camp because, lots of keiki got involved with the University of Hawaii men's basketball program, all of that. It was a nice weekend for me. I got an opportunity to go to a non-sporting event concert for the first time, which is, I guess, a little fun fact about me. For every, musical concert that I'd gone to that I had not performed in, obviously former band kid, former music kid, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I had actually gotten a chance. I went to the Green concert this past weekend, which ended up being really, really awesome. They bring out Kolohe Kai, J-Boog at the end. Just a really fun time. The rain held off for us as well. Saw our Olivia Austin out. I got a chance to go out with my wife and enjoy that, and it made up for what was about half a decade of waiting to go to a concert. I actually tried to go to a concert back in 2020. I don't know if you guys were aware of this. There was this whole global pandemic thing that kind of took everything out, so I didn't end up getting a chance to do that. So that was really awesome. Got a local concert, got to see everybody who was incredibly excited about it. Are you guys the Green fans? Do you guys listen to the Green much at all? I know my musical taste is a little more is getting used to the local style, local flavor a little bit more. What are your guys' musical vibes like? Are you Green fans?
Yeah, I listen to the Green a fair amount. I mean, I wanted to go to the concert too, actually, but it just the timing just kind of didn't work out. I had a little bit of other things I had to do, but I know a lot of my friends went, and I heard it was a very long line to get to food and beverages, and I know that it was a lot of people there, so I'm glad that everybody that was there had fun.
New school Green, I'm not really I don't know much of the new school songs, but the old school songs like She Was the Best or
Classics.
What Do You Do?
Yep.
When the girl you want.
Oh, had that one on there. It was fun. I got an opportunity to hear all of those, and it's funny because I actually am not an avid listener to The Green, or at least I wasn't an avid listener to The Green. I had known a couple of their songs, but overall was not really something that I was like knowing what I was going to sing by the end of it. It's funny how much has ended up on my Spotify playlist. Hopefully you're tuned in to us still after a little bit of conversation. And if you are tuned in, maybe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get most podcasts, be sure to leave a like, a rating, leave a comment. Let us know how we're doing, what you want to hear about. And if you're here on our YouTube as well, do the same thing. Drop a like, leave a comment. It really helps us out. Be sure to subscribe. But plenty to talk about today after that packed out weekend, fellas. Obviously, I'm probably the only real baseball guy that follows through with most things. A massive trade over the weekend with the Giants acquiring Rafael Devers from Boston. I'm going to have to talk to our Vicente Molina about that, knowing that he is a big fan there. And also, like I mentioned before, local commitments, NBA Finals, AD confirmation, and all of that. Michael will leave us in the second hour to bring all of the things about the AD. And that's kind of where I want to start things out today, just to get a conversation going there with the UHAD search. Zor, we have not really talked to you about this. Obviously, you were an athlete. How much during your time in college did you end up interacting with the athletic directors? How much of a role do you think of this? How important of a role do you think of this as?
So in my earlier days, I didn't really interact with the AD. Kind of was a thing where you'd see him in the hall and kind of just wave. But I've always thought Dave Matlin was a really good guy. I mean, I've heard a lot of mixed things about him, but my interactions with him have always been really awesome. Especially after COVID, I think like he handled COVID really well, just for what he was dealt with and kind of recovering through everything we may have lost in ticket sales and whatnot. So I think that I feel like after COVID, I was really close with Dave. Actually, for one of my classes, I interviewed him on his way out. So me and him have always had a really good relationship. He'll text me from time to time, checking in on me. So he was always a really good guy. And I got here probably, I've only interacted with Craig at the time for maybe a couple months, because when I was a GA, he had, we all know the story. So, but he was always really nice. I think you could tell that there was a little bit differences between him and Matlin, but everybody that was within the athletics program, like the coaches and players, all respected him. So I think that that's the biggest thing. I think that it's very difficult to, if you're not from here, it takes a little bit of a while to kind of understand the people of Hawaii and what they need and how to be a proper AD. You can't come in with your own agendas. You have to come in and kind of adapt to the culture first, and then once you adapt to the culture, everybody will accept you for the AD you are, right or wrong. What I mean? So I think that's the biggest thing, that whoever may be the new AD, I know it's close to being finished, but I think that's the biggest thing, just adapting to the culture and knowing and understanding what the people of Hawaii need, instead of just kind of pushing your own agendas.
I think that's all totally fair. As I sit here and I think about Matt Elliott, who once again is likely to be confirmed later today as the new University of Hawaii athletics director, the special Board of Regents meeting that will go on and officially include both him and I believe the new interim provost. Michael, you're going to be the one in the building today. What are you kind of expecting in this? Do you think it's just going to run smoothly? Do you think this is kind of a run-of-the-mill type of thing? Do you think we're in for any fireworks today, or you think we're going to get a chance to talk to Matt Elliott? What are you expecting today?
I mean, I think it should be confirmed, because when Craig Angeles got confirmed but voted for the board, I know that Gabe Lee was one of those that was 8-2 at one abstaining that voted against Craig being confirmed as the new AD. But Gabe Lee was on the search committee that got Matt Elliott, so I figure hey, if you're on the search committee to get Matt Elliott, you're going to vote for him in, right? So, yeah, I'm hoping to, I don't know, depending on how many media is there. I mean, there's definitely going to be general media as well as sports media. But I know a lot of the media will probably ask him questions like, what is your plan for this? What is your NIL plan? The house settlement, those are all big things. For me, I just want to get a more sense of who Matt Elliott is, right? Because, I mean, Zor, you probably can, a name like Matt Elliott, there's like a billion Matt Elliott's on the internet, right? So I want to know what makes him unique, what makes Hawaii home to him, because I mean, from everything I've been hearing is that he's done a good job with the search committee. He's done a good job with the legislature because he's been a lobbyist for Hawaii Community Foundation. His former employer speaks highly of him. Obviously, I think Coach Ganad and Coach Timmy was able to meet with him via Zoom. So he's got all the constituents, right? I think they got approval, but there's one constituent, which is the everyday fan, right? And I think, getting the general public to buy in back to the program is very important, because right now there's just a whole distrust with the general public with everything, right? Like even the stadium. Like I know the stadium is a state project, but I feel really good about the stadium, but people still think it's not going to get built or we're not even going to demolish. Yeah, so I think he's just seeing if he can connect to the general fan. Zor, you grew up in Kapolei, right? There's probably a good contingent of general fans that wishes there was a stadium in West Oahu, because there's a lot of area, right?
Right.
So, it's easy for like the townies to get to UH, but can you get like the people from like Kahuku, like EA, to come to make that effort to drive into town, or people from like Waianae, Nanakuli, Kapolei to drive into town, because that is a far drive for folks like us. So I just want to see him connect to that general public.
Right. I think those are all really, really good and important points, right? Where at this point you understand the reasons why you have seen the selection committee feel comfortable in what he can do or what he has done. But at the end of the day, it's not about what you have done, but what you will end up doing in the position for the University of Hawaii, and more specifically for the state of Hawaii, because of the way that this school connects to it. And Matt Elliott, like you mentioned before, plenty of experience in the past, has connected with the islands, has connected with some of the people here already, but those people are already very involved with UH. And as we enter this new era of college athletics with revenue sharing, with the full scholarships, with scholarship limits, with roster limits, so on and so forth, it's going to take somebody who is creative when it comes to solving solutions, getting these types of interests to not just the Manoa area, but outside, like you mentioned, West Oahu, like you mentioned, up on the North Shore, and so on and so forth. And real, honestly speaking, and this was something that we did see Craig Angeles and his team do, and obviously there are still people who were part of that regime still in the building now, they have started to try and go and connect out with the outer islands as well, and how important it is for the neighbor islands to also feel as though that they are being represented by the University of Hawaii at Manoa at times. So I hope to see that continued on as well. Obviously, we're getting way ahead of ourselves in this, as we're just hoping that Matt Elliott gets confirmed today as the new AD at the University of Hawaii.
Well, I'll tell you what, Paul. He better get confirmed today, because if we don't have an AD while there's all these house settlement that we got to start paying. Hey, Zor, you might get a back payment, right?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I really hope so.
We got to get Matt in there so Zor can get his check.
Yeah, definitely need to get it confirmed today. We need to get it confirmed yesterday.
Matt Elliott, former UCLA administrator, had worked out here for the past couple of years in Hawaii as well, gets an opportunity to be confirmed by the Board of Regents later today. If you have any questions that you're curious about, anything you're thinking about the University of Hawaii at Manoa Athletics Director situation, please shoot us a text at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. Or leave us a comment on our YouTube channel where we are streaming live. We got to step aside for our first break of the day. When we return, talk a little bit of basketball, fellas. How about that, as the NBA Finals, a pivotal Game 5 later tonight. We'll talk about that and more when we return here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in traffic?
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Paul Brecht and Michael Lescaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Michael Lescaro, and Zor Ned bringing you all the action on this Aloha Monday, this YouTube Monday. Thank you so much for joining us this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 a.m. Hawaii time. And streaming, like I mentioned, live on some days, mostly just Mondays, but sometimes we'll try a few other things throughout the summer as well on our YouTube channel, Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Thank you to Caesar, who, as always, is tuned in and commenting. Caesar seems to be a fan of Michael's shirt. That's what's our friends over at Kahala, right? One of those very, very comfortable shirts. He says, aloha and good morning, y'all. Michael is looking good in his aloha shirt. Maybe that's a sign that the boys will be throwing a party at the den while Mama Ku is on vacay. We will certainly be having some fun with Ku'ule away, but I don't know about parties.
I can't confirm what brand the shirt is because we are currently not sponsored. So as a radio station, we are free agents. You know, if any golf company or outfitters wants to outfit us with some very nice apparel, we will rock it all over. So yeah, I can't confirm what brand the shirt is because we are not affiliated with any brand.
Well, I am wearing something that the University of Hawaii will probably no longer be affiliated with as much. A former Adidas school moving over to Nike, but obviously we'll have to see all of the apparel come on over. I mentioned it before we went to break. We're going to talk some NBA Finals, Michael. I know that this might be a little bit painful for you, but also maybe it's not, right? The NBA Finals tied at 2 after 4 games between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. A 111-104 win for the Thunder in Indiana last Friday. A back-and-forth game, an exciting one that had the opportunity to put Indiana up 3-1, but instead it's the MVP of the league, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, goes off for 35 points, 12 of 24 from the field. A Kobe disciple with 0 assists. And then, of course, Jalen Williams, 27, 7, and 3, a double big starting lineup. Alex Caruso, 20 points off the bench. And it took all of that for the Thunder to tie this series at 2 apiece. So I'm going to start there. Michael, as the resident Indiana Pacers fan, you mentioned going into a bit of a sadness, a hole after that loss. How are we feeling now, a few days removed from the series being tied, now making it essentially a best-of-3 series?
I feel all right. You know, when players and coaches say, "Oh, I got to review the film," it's just coach speak, right? But when the Indiana Pacers say it, they actually mean it, and they'll find ways to get things open. You know, the biggest adjustment that the Thunder made towards the end of the game was they had Jalen Williams, J-Dub, and SGA kind of do like a pick and roll or switch. They were switch hunting Aaron Nesmith. And Nesmith, you know, he did really well against Jalen Brunson, but a little bit over-energetic sometimes. And SGA is a player that plays with pace and manipulating and slithering his way into areas, and that's how he can kind of get defenses off guard and maybe even get them to draw the foul. But yeah, there's I think SJ got 7 straight points on Aaron Nesmith guarding him, and that was pretty much the turnaround for the game. But yeah, it's I think the Indiana Pacers will review that. Because in the past games, whenever someone was on SJ, maybe a Tyrese, or they'll send a double team, but there in that stretch, they didn't send a double team, and SG is oh, no Nembhard on me, no double. I'll go and show why I'm the MVP, and that's kind of what happened. So it's going to be interesting what the Indiana Pacers do to stuff. We are probably going to need more from Miles Turner if we want to win this series. I think he's only shooting 20% from 3. So if you're not going to do the one skill well that makes you valuable, it's going to be a tough series. I think at the end too, in the fourth quarter, the Pacers got a bit stagnant. I think Pascal Siakam only had 1 shot attempt where he was killing it in the first quarter. That's unacceptable. And I think Tyrese Halliburton was a little bit of aura farming, trying to get his step back 3, take it on Chat. They just wasn't getting it inside enough.
I think that's totally fair. And to kind of build off your point, it didn't look like the Pacers that we had come to grown accustomed to throughout this entire playoffs, where it is just an unbelievable offense at times. It can continue on when it's I mean, you think that you've taken full control of the game, and then they rip off 12, 14, 16 points. Zor, you're somebody who had predicted a Thunder victory on Friday, but still not necessarily giving the Thunder the series. You think it still can be very competitive through this final best of three. When it came to Game 4, did it kind of play out how you expected? I mean, I can't say that it's probably exactly with the Thunder shooting just 18% from long range. They make 3 total three-pointers in that one. As Michael said, the Pacers kind of go anti-Pacer through that in the fourth quarter. Did it play out how you expected it to? Was it a little bit different, or just kind of at the end of the day, your prediction was stemming from, I mean, they have the MVP and they had their back against the wall?
Well, obviously they've been in this situation multiple times this playoffs, just kind of having their back against the wall in games that they probably should have won. I mean, I look back at the Denver Nuggets series where, one of those games they could have won, but Aaron Gordon hits the three to send it to, or not to send over to win the game, and then they lose that game. I believe it was Game 3, and you have that video of Shea kind of smiling, walking back. So I think they've been in that situation before, so it wasn't anything new to them. It played out, minus the 3-point shooting, it played out pretty much how I thought it was going to. I knew that one of the role players, or somebody not named Shea, was going to have to step up, and you see with Chet, he had a double-double, and then Caruso had a really good game off the bench. I feel like this series has kind of come down to whoever steps up other than the star 2 or 3 players kind of wins the series. I mean, wins the game. I mean, you see it in Game 3 with Indiana Pacers role players kind of stepping up a little bit, and each game has been like that. For Game 1, Obi Toppin hits 5 threes. I mean, Game 2, Wiggins has a really good game. I think that's really what the series is going to come down to. I was a little bit surprised to see the Thunder switch, like how they sub Shea, but it ended up ultimately working in their favor with not playing him the whole first quarter and maybe saving him a little bit. And I mean, it worked out because in the fourth quarter he had like the last 12 or so points for them. So I think that would be interesting. I really liked the adjustment they made and switching, bringing him not to bring the ball up and having him as a primary screener to get the matchup off of him. And we'll see what Rick Carlisle does to kind of adjust that. And obviously, everybody's calls Scott Foster the extender. So I think that may or may not have had a deal with that, but I see in the way Rick Carlisle handled the interview, so maybe he'll get some calls this game.
Of reverse psychology.
We'll never know. But I think that this game's going to really come down to the others. I mean, I've said that for the last couple games. It's been that. And I think that's what's going to happen tonight. I'm expecting a really good game from Nesmith. I think that he'll bounce back. Obviously, as a defender, as a two-way player, he's probably upset that they were hunting him as the matchup, and he's probably going to take that as disrespect and come out with a real fiery performance. He almost had a double-double last game, and I think that I don't know if he shot as well as he had in the Knicks series. I mean, he had that one game 1 where he was lights out. I think I'm sorry to bring back some PTSD for you, but
it's okay.
I feel like this is a big game for him, and even Mathurin. I to be quite honest with you, I thought that they were going to still win the game with 13, 14 seconds left. Mathurin hits those 2 free throws. They throw the turnover. He missed the 2 free throws, but if he hits them, that's a totally different game, and that's kind of accustomed to what we've seen from the Pacers this playoff series. So I think that it's really going to come down to the others tonight. I have the Pacers winning this game and kind of shaking things up. But I ultimately have the series ending in 7 for the first time since the famous block by LeBron James.
2016, almost a decade now that it's been. My goodness!
If the game ends in 7, I feel like the OKC will take it, and I'll have my 3rd straight Monday coming to the show.
Oh no!
Sad, right? Because last Monday it was because they lost on Sunday. They lost in Game 2. This Monday it's because they lost in Game 4, and then they had the whole weekend. So Game 7 scheduled for Sunday. So if it's Game 7 and they lose on Sunday, then you'll have depressed Michael on the show for a 3rd straight. Well, last Monday or 2 Mondays ago, I didn't really have to talk about it. But
honestly, I might say this now. You know, if that does end up being the case, I don't know. I'll find somebody else to come in on that Monday if you don't want to talk about it.
no, you need me to rant on here.
All right, that's gonna about do it for our hour one NBA conversation. We'll talk. Zora and I will talk some more NBA hoops in hour number 2. But Michael, do you want to give any prediction before we go to break, or do you prefer to not play with those games?
I mean, the only prediction I would say is take the Pacers and the points. I think the OKC is giving up like 9 or 9.5, and they're definitely. I don't think the Pacers are gonna lose by like 17 or whatever it was in game 2. So I'll just say take Pacers and the points. I know a lot of people put money on the Pacers last game because they were still like 6 or 6.5 underdogs, but somehow OKC covered by like 1 point. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it makes you go,
Maybe Vegas made a call or something like that. Who knows? Anyway, at the end of the day, 2-2, Thunder tie the series all up at 2. Game 5 later today between the 2. Game 5 of the NBA Finals. When we return, we will talk some local stuff as the class of 2026 starting to make their homes known for the football season, or before football season begins. We'll have our Michael Lascaro let you know about all the latest with that. On the other side of this break, don't go anywhere. You're listening to Wake Up in the Den on 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Stuck in traffic.
You're listening to Wake Up in the Den with Paul Brecht and Michael Lascaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, AM 760 and 95.1 FM, and streaming on hawaiisportsradio.com.
Welcome back to you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. Paul Brecht, Michael Lascaro, Zor Ned, talking a whole bunch of Hawaii sports today. Starting things out, we talked a little bit of the UH Athletic Director confirmation that is expected later this morning. Then we moved into the NBA Finals, a little away from the islands, but bringing it back locally now as the class of 2026 on the gridiron starting to make their new homes known. Kailua, big one, big commitment there, a couple of big commitments there. A top linebacker from the class of 2025 also finding a home, and of course, UH getting an athlete of their own. Michael, I'm going to hand things over to you to tell the beautiful people a little bit about these players. I want to start with Isaiah Wong, who is an offensive tackle, or an offensive lineman, I should say, from Kailua, a quality player in many, many ways. Talk a little bit to the beautiful people about what the Bears are getting there as they continue to tap into this Hawaii pipeline for the class of 2026.
Yeah, this is Cal third prospect from the class of 2026 that they have recruited from Hawaii. They got a commitment. The first one was tight end Taimane Purcell out of Kamehameha. Second one is Kaloi Kelly from Farrington, another offensive lineman. And now they get Isaiah Wong from Kailua. Now, Isaiah Wong is the son of Joe Hau'oli Wong, who played in the NFL for a few years. So you know he has that I don't want to say pedigree or experience, but he just comes from a family that knows the process of how to do this. Paul, you got a chance to call one of Kailua's games against Moanalua, where they upset Moanalua on the road, and you can kind of see. I mean, now with these offensive linemen getting all recruited, you can kind of see why they was able to pull it off and reach the state tournament and the OI championship. But yeah, Isaiah's really good. He's been starting since I think a sophomore or even a freshman. I know. I think Arizona has been coming down to check him out. I think Joshua Mura, I believe, was the recruiting coordinator. He might be at Washington now, so he's definitely going to be. But yeah, Cal is just scooping up Hawaii players, and you know, if you compare that to last year when they have Jaren Sangamotele quarterback, they got Aiden Monotai, and then they also have LeBron Williams. It's Cal might be the team I might be playing on the new NCAA football game when it comes out, because that's a lot of Hawaii ties there. So yeah, great for Isaiah Wong and the family. The Pax Ahovelo also committed to Colorado State. I know. Is Colorado State still going to be in the Mountain West, Paul? Do you remember?
Believe they're moving, but you know, who knows in today's day and age.
Yeah, I know. I think Hawaii fans may have wanted him, but he is a bit kind of a heavier set tackle. I know Hawaii, their preference on offensive tackles is kind of those 6'5", 6'6", 6'4" guys, but that are like around 260, so that they can kind of put some muscle on their frame. They don't really want them that heavy set, at least at the tackle position. But there's also Uluaki Tatafu, if we're talking about sticking with Kailua players, where he did just take an official visit to Hawaii over this past weekend or 2 weekends ago. He's a 6'5", 290-pound left guard. So I know Hawaii is kind of looking at him. But yeah, Kailua, great stuff for Kailua. They're probably gonna have another awesome season this year. Where do you want me to go next, Paul?
I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about Roy Ma'afala Jr., who isn't a class of 2026 guy, but did end up finding his home, a class of 2025 guy, one of the top and only prospects in the class of 2025 without a home, I believe. What can you tell the beautiful people about him and what Utah Tech is getting in him?
Yeah, well, he's arguably, the number one linebacker in the state last year. I think only maybe Isaiah Iosefa from Mililani, who's going to Arizona State, maybe it'll be better. So yeah, he's one of the top linebackers. I think 247 Sports reported that he had offers from Hawaii and Utah, but you sometimes with these offers, you don't know if they're non-committable or scholarship offer off the back.
Not all offers are created equally.
Yes. There's definitely offers where they want you. Hey, if we'll see, we'll follow up, or it's just offer. Hey, in the summer you can commit. I know it was tough for RJ Ma'afala to maybe find a spot on UH. I know they're their linebacking position in the recruiting class of 2025 was already filled early in the summer when Zayden Maratarangi and Isaiah Pangofie committed. But yeah, even after the signing day in December, I know Ma'afala's representation shared with me that, Timmy would love to have him, maybe a walk-on at least. But sometimes for a young student athlete and family, sometimes you kind of want to have that tuition paid for. So that may be why you don't see him on, why he's not with UH. And I mean, a former St. Louis Crusader in Vavai Tata, who was recently the defensive coordinator at Mililani, is now the outside linebackers coach at Utah Tech. So that's how that connection was, got him a full ride. And hey, would you rather play at a D1 university and play D1 and pay D1 tuition, or would you rather go to a smaller school but have all your tuition paid for? And to me, you kind of have to follow the money. At that point, there's, at the end of the day, your degree means a lot more than wherever you played if you're not going to play professionally. So really great job really cool for Ma'afala to get that opportunity to play at Utah Tech.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I just, when it comes to the opportunity to play at the next level, and Zor, this is something you can speak on where, I mean, at the end of the day, these opportunities don't come up for everybody, let alone, just this late in the process. So to be able to still find a home, find a place where you're going to feel comfortable. And in today's day and world, it doesn't matter where you start because you can go in other places. Zor, can you just talk a little bit about the importance of finding a good fit for yourself as a student and as an athlete?
Yeah, I think it's big, especially now with the way that the NIL is working and the transfer portal. It's so rare that kids from high school are even getting an opportunity. I know football is a lot different than basketball in terms of the amount of scholarships that they have, but I feel like once you talk to coaches and once you kind of develop a relationship, I think that's the biggest thing. I think you need to go where you're wanted and where you feel like would be the best fit for you, not only as an athlete, but just as a person. If you could see yourself at that place, sometimes a lot of kids get wowed by these big school names, and they don't really understand how many years it's going to take for them to play, or the politics behind a lot of things. They just kind of go for the shiny thing that's in front of them. So I think it's good for kids, especially if you have a good support system around you that kind of helps you weigh the pros and cons of each situation, and ultimately help you pick the best situation for yourself. Because I know kids have the opportunity to transfer whenever they want to, but you don't want to be someone that has to transfer every single year of your college career. You don't want to be collecting the Thanos stones of. So I think that's a big thing. Just finding the perfect fit for you, not only as a student athlete, but just as a person. If you can see yourself being at this place for I bet it used to be for the next 4 years, but if you can see yourself being in this place for the next 2, then that's good enough. I think that's a big thing.
And yeah, like you said, just to find a home that you feel good, you feel comfortable at, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to transfer, but even if it's 2 years instead of just 1 year, it can be so big. Speaking about linebackers in Hawaii, there was another big commitment over the weekend. The top player in the class of 2026 for the state of Hawaii in football, Talanoa Ili from Kahuku, made his decision, deciding between a pair of pretty big-time programs. And actually, thanks to 247 Sports, we've got this audio from his commitment. This is what Talanoa Ili, the top recruit in the class of 2026, had to say as he made his commitment between USC and UCLA.
It's been a long process for you, Talanoa. What has this been like to navigate through and kind of go through some of your options?
It's just been a blessing. I'm grateful to be in the spot I am in today. And, I couldn't be more happy.
No one gets to the finish line alone. And, what has it been like? I know we have a lot of family here. We have a crowd. We have your parents here alongside you. To have them a part of your journey, what has that been like?
Family is everything to me, and I'm grateful for everybody here today. And thank you.
2 Los Angeles schools. But before we get to the decision, I want you to discuss what made these 2 the schools that reached the finish line here.
I wanted to come back home and be in LA, play in front of my family and friends, and bring college football back to Hollywood, LA.
All right, so it is time now for you to let us know where you're going to be playing your college football. As the anticipation builds, we've got a younger sister who's going to be joining us here as well. So Talanoa, where will you be playing your college football?
First, I want to start off by thanking God, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Thank you to my family, my parents especially, for pushing me and helping me get to this point in my life. Thank you to everybody that's been a part of this journey. Family, friends, coaches, teammates, each and every one of you guys played a part in getting me here. My family and I have been blessed, and we're thankful for everybody and every experience that we have been through in this whole recruiting process. For the next chapter of my career, I'll be attending the University of Southern California. Fight on.
We've got a loud ovation here, about 100 people here to celebrate the moment. What made USC the choice for you at the end of the day?
I want to continue that legacy and bring everything back to USC, everything that they've been wanting. Man, I'm just blessed and grateful to be here.
The Trojans have the #1 ranked class in this 2026 cycle. When you look at some of the other guys in this class, much did it mean to you to see what they're trying to build there and potentially be an important piece of that puzzle?
I see the vision, I trust it, and I want to win a college football championship, national championship with my hometown team.
We always like to ask players what they like in their own game or what they're going to bring to a college program. I know a lot of USC fans are right now watching this at home. What are the Trojans getting in Talanoa Ely?
They're going to get everything out of me, all my effort, my personality, everything. God bless everybody.
The Trojans get it done once again out west, the #1 class in this 2026 cycle. A really physical linebacker, has been one of the most dominant and the top performing players in the vaunted Trinity League over the last couple of years. And I think it could be maybe a captain in that middle of the defense for USC as they revamp things on the recruiting front and obviously adding the pieces to contend there in the Big Ten and potentially chase a national championship. So Talanoa Ely joining the #1 class in the country, 4-star linebacker, is staying out west, will be playing for the USC Trojans.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And that was via 247 Sports. Talanoa Ely, the top linebacker in the class of 2026, the top player in the class of 2026 here in Hawaii, making his commitment known to USC. And you can catch USC games here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. And obviously, USC continuing what has been a very solid class, as you hear mentioned right there, the top recruiting class right now for the class of 2026, and only continuing on as they tack on another kid with Hawaii ties to the program. Michael, any further thoughts before we head to break on Talanoa Ely's commitment to the University of Southern California? Jeez, I'm a crow.
Yeah, well, Talanoa is, well, I was going to make a joke that, hey, the Trojans on Oahu and now the Trojans in California are getting the best players, but yeah, he is a Cali boy. I know he has Kahuku on his title, and in his backdrop too, he has a Kahuku flag, and his parents are wearing like Kahuku shirts. It's kind of cute, but yeah, he made the move out here to the West, or to Hawaii and Kahuku, because I know the family wanted to have him have that Polynesian experience, right? Mm-hmm. And just, you can have it in California, and they have all the cultural things, but to actually be on the islands, they just feel something like it. You just feel tied to like your roots, your ancestors. I'm not Polynesian, so I can't speak on that. But yeah, that's why he's here in Kahuku, and Kahuku. Even with all the turmoil with the firing of Coach Sterling and whatnot, he's still gonna stay here. So that's cool to see. But yeah, Kahuku is gonna be cool to see. One thing as a teaser before break, we should be getting public commitment. I mean, from a 2026 University of Hawaii player. I know who it is. I've been told not to say who it is, yes. But if you know, you know. If you know, you know. But yeah, we should be getting a commitment soon. Seems like it's another local boy coming back home. So that's my teaser for you, beautiful people.
Hopefully we get that news before you have to step out, and if not, we'll get you to talk about it tomorrow. But we got to step aside for our last break of hour number 1. When we return, we will discuss a little bit more on the UHAD situation, the confirmation later today, later this morning, I should say. You're listening to Wake Up in the Den on 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Stuck in traffic?
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Paul Brecht and Michael Lescaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Michael Lescaro, Zorned, bringing you all the action on this Aloha Monday. Live on YouTube, 95.1 FM, AM 760, streaming live on hawaiisportsradio.com, wherever you're taking in this show into your ear gates. We thank you so much because it's what allows us to do what we love to do. A lot of stuff that we talked about in hour number 1. In case you missed it, we did discuss a little bit of the NBA Finals Game 4, what happened to Michael's Pacers, and if it was the death knell for them going into Game 5, or if it was just a blip on the radar. We also discussed some local commitments. Michael, our main football guy here at Hawaii Sports Radio Network, if you're not following him yet on social media, what are you doing? The top source for all things Hawaii football related, not just the University of Hawaii, but also the high school scene, both here and on the continent. Follow him at Michael Lescaro on X. And just plenty more to come in the coming days. Like Michael mentioned, a potential University of Hawaii commitment coming on in. They also gained a former Punahou standout in Koa Eldridge over the weekend, an athlete from BYU, the opportunity to play either at the wide receiver position or defensive back. Interested to see what ends up there. And as you said before, Michael, potentially another recruit coming on in, awaiting that to be announced officially by himself. But we also have talked a little bit about the University of Hawaii potentially getting a new athletic director officially on board today, as Matt Elliott goes to official confirmation by the University of Hawaii Board of Regents. It's a special meeting, starts at 9:30 at Bachman Hall at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, first floor conference room. And it's for the AD position and also the interim provost, which new UH President Wendy Hensel has announced the recommendations that she'll put forward for both For those of you who are a little bit unfamiliar with Matt Elliott, he brings 13 years of experience in athletic administration from UCLA. He most recently served as the Bruins Chief Strategy Officer from 2022 to 2024, where he helped lead the Bruins into the Big Ten, where after the Pac-12 started to crumble from the inside, they made a move to one of the most iconic brands in all of college athletics. He's a former senior associate AD as well, with experience in legal, NIL policy, government relations, all of the things that you could really ask for in this role and in such a key time. It seems that Matt Elliott has experience doing it. Now, of course, experience doesn't mean all that much if you cannot parlay it into success. But, gentlemen, as we close out our number one, how are we feeling about the University of Hawaii potentially finally confirming an athletic director in what is a very serious time in college sports?
Yeah, I think it should go off with a hitch. We need to get Matt Elliott in there so we can figure out the house settlement, so we can get Zor his back pay back. Zor, there is a link you need to look up. I might actually send it. I'll send it to you, because I think you actually have to apply to get your back pay. I think some alleys think that you're just gonna get it, so I think you have to apply. But yeah, Matt Elliott coming in, that would be great for the university. And you know, everything I hear from him is very positive. So I know people don't really know him, the general public, but who knows? Maybe, you know, I'm hoping he's a home run, and one day Hensel starts off her presidency in a very great foot.
That's the hope. At the end of the day, we just need somebody in the building who inspires confidence in the fan base, and hopefully that will be Matt Elliott as he gets the opportunity, or potentially gets the opportunity later today. That'll close things up for our number one. Don't go anywhere, though. Plenty more coming in our number two. Zornet and I going to discuss more NBA chatter. We've got some UFL stuff to talk about as well. Plenty more in our number two of Wake Up in the Den. Don't go anywhere. You're listening on 95.1 FM and AM 760.
The Honolulu Zoo, your magical place for laughing, learning, and exploring. Meet the animals up close and personal and create lasting
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Paul Brecht and Michael Lescaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. Paul Brecht and Zor Ned bringing you all the way through hour number 2. Michael Lescaro had to step out as we send him on his way to the University of Hawaii at Manoa. He is going to attend the confirmation meeting, the special meeting for the Board of Regents, as University of Hawaii hopefully confirms Matt Elliott, former UCLA Chief Strategy Officer, as the new athletic director for the University of Hawaii. I want to say thank you so much to anybody tuned in, whether you're listening in live or on demand, wherever you get most podcasts. Be sure to leave a 5-star rating, drop a comment, leave anything that helps us out more than you know, and it is perfectly free. Also, mahalo to anybody tuned in on our YouTube. As always, Caesar active in the chat, asking a bunch when we were discussing both the NBA and talking a little bit about the local recruits. Said Hallie is in the finals right now, while Swipa is no longer with the Kings, and Sabonis is most likely to be traded soon. The Kings really are a cursed team. That comes after he commented Tyrese Halliburton will be the Sacramento Kings' biggest regret if he ends up winning a championship. They chose Fox over Hallie for Sabonis, and look how that turned out. I will definitely talk about that and some more later on in this hour. Wanted to talk a little bit, though, about the UFL, which actually has been pretty fun, I'll say, Zor, in a lot of different ways. I'm a big football fan. I know that you are also a big football fan. One of us roots for a successful team. The other one, maybe not so much. But in that sense, it is made me explore these different leagues a little bit more, watching whether it was the UFL, the XFL over the years, the CFL, all of the FLs out there. But the UFL had their championship game this past Saturday, June 14th, and it was a pretty fun one, and one with some Hawaii ties, as the DC Defenders took down the Michigan Panthers 58-34. To win the UFL championship at the Dome in America's Center in St. Louis, Missouri. Jordan Ta'amu from D.C., the quarterback, ended up winning a Pearl City native and alum. He had himself a phenomenal game, helping lead the Defenders to this championship. A heck of a year for them. But before we discuss that, I want to hear from Jordan after he was named MVP of the UFL championship game, and this is what he had to say following the victory as he was presented with the MVP trophy.
This is an all-time performance by you. There was a lot of talk this week about not getting the MVP. You got this MVP, you got a championship, and you have a stat line that's going to go down in the record books. 388 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, a 2-point conversion. You did it every which way. How'd you pull it off?
You know, number one, I just trusted God. Number two, my family and friends, my support staff that, was there for me always. And number three, could not have done it without Coach Shannon and my team, the DC Defenders.
Jordan, when you reflect on your journey, how much does this mean to you to be a champion at the end of a football season?
It's a dream come true, man. I mean, we worked our butt off, and I can't even speak right now. I'm speechless because I'm so happy. My heart is racing, and could not have done it without these guys, like I said before, man. It's a dream come true.
And that was Jordan Ta'amu, the DC Defenders starting quarterback and championship game MVP. Former Ole Miss guy, former Pearl City guy, and now UFL champion with the DC Defenders. Had himself a heck of a game, goes 21 of 28, passing the ball for 390 yards and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, had a long of 73 yards in that one, only got sacked once while also adding in 28 more yards on the ground and a touchdown, 5 touchdowns in total to help the Defenders outduel the Michigan Panthers. It was a big-time second quarter that gave the distance, we'll say, to the Defenders as they score 5 separate times in that second quarter to go up into halftime, 37-19. Only allow 3 scores in the second half, and in that 15 total points in the second half as they continued to pour it on. A 58-34 victory as they win the UFL championship. A very, very cool opportunity for Ta'amu and the Defenders. A pretty fun team throughout the year, one that they had to they had to move on from their head coach in the beginning of the season, had an interim coach step on in and ends up really making a name for himself, fighting all the way through. The Panthers beat the Birmingham Stallions in the conference finals the week prior. The Defenders beat the top-seeded Battlehawks out of the XFL, and tell you what, just a very, very fun game that ended up to be. Zor, have you gotten into the UFL at all, or are you more of a, let's say, you more just an NFL guy? Because I guess your Birds won recently, right?
Yeah, I'm more of an NFL guy. I do see whenever something comes up on social media about the UFL, and I always will watch. I know that yesterday there was a big mic'd up segment of like the Defenders. I guess they had an interception against the quarterback from the other team, and I have a feeling that the quarterback may have won the MVP, and they were talking a lot of trash to him, saying like he's a weak MVP. But it makes sense because, I mean, how good of a season Jordan seemed to have. I feel like his team kind of rallied behind him and was like, you know, this should be your MVP instead of this guy. So I think that I seen an interview where it said that a lot of the players were kind of upset that he didn't win MVP or Offensive Player of the Year, but he was kind of like, you know, God had a plan for me, and it was to win this MVP in the championship.
It certainly seemed that way, and at the end of the day, I would rather the championship and the championship MVP than the league MVP. A really cool story for Ta'amu just in general, as a guy like many of these UFL and XFL players, which have now combined into one league, that have fought through and tried to continue on their professional career. Obviously, football a little bit different from, say, professional basketball, where you do see a little bit more established leagues overseas. Still trying to find that secondary league, we'll call it, to the NFL here in the United States, and it seems as though they have started to move that way. As I mentioned before, Ta'amu, alum of Pearl City High School here in Hawaii, his senior year passed for 1,779 yards and 29 touchdowns, just threw 4 picks, ended up going to Ole Miss, started his career at New Mexico Military Institute, where isn't that where our friend, oh my goodness, why is his name? Yeah, Nadrick Pete, who is now over with Coastal Carolina, where he started his career, but ends up going to Ole Miss, was undrafted out of Ole Miss in 2019, and then had several cups of coffee with multiple NFL teams, whether it was the Texans, the Lions, the Chiefs again, the Lions again, the Washington football team, now the Commanders, Carolina Panthers, and then the Minnesota Vikings before finally just going all in. And like you mentioned, Zor, an MVP type of year by Ta'amu in the UFL. And at the end of it, leads to a championship. And, you know, while we're on the topic of football, I suppose I'll ask you, how have you felt about the Eagles off season? How are you feeling? I didn't give you much of a chance to talk Eagles on Friday. We kind of ran out of time, but how are you feeling after watching the Birds become champions last year?
I feel really good. I mean, it was sad to see Gardner Johnson leave, but I feel like that was a contract issue type of thing, and they're still trying to get younger. I like what they did in the draft this year. Just getting a lot of pieces. I think somebody that's really underrated is going to be the guy they got out of Nebraska. He seems to look like another T.J. Watt, and I think that their defensive line is only getting younger, and the secondary, I think hopefully they can get, I mean, my Christmas wish or off-season wish list would be to get Jair Alexander. I think that would be the perfect slap in the face to the Packers that think that we were going to stop the tush push, and now he's still your best defender. But hopefully that happens. But, you know, you never know with Howie. He always has something under his sleeve. I think that the offense is in a good place. I think that winning the Super Bowl MVP and kind of getting that monkey off his back will let Jalen reach another level. Unfortunately, he's had another offensive coordinator for the another time. I mean, he's probably had the most offensive coordinator changes than any other quarterback in probably recent history, with being at Alabama and Oklahoma, and all of his first few years as an NFL player. He's only had 1 year where he's had back-to-back.
He's been able to have that consistency.
Yeah. So hopefully, the offense makes another jump here. But I'm excited. Can't ask for more than opening night versus the Cowboys. Week 1, hate Dallas week, get it out the way.
Honestly, that's so fair. I get that, and get it done early before the new coach figures things out, before the Cowboys figure things out, maybe figure things out, obviously home of the Cowboys. So please tune in to those games. You can hear that game here. Actually, our Caesar, he puts in an interesting question, or not question, but rather statement in our YouTube chat. Hawaii is getting a UFL team, and Kalani Sitake will coach that team. The Rock said it himself that Hawaii needs a team. The co-owner of the league said that, so it's most likely going to happen once the new Aloha Stadium gets built. How would you feel about having a UFL team out here? How cool would that be for the people of Hawaii? Just because we talk all the time, there's no, outside of UH, there's no professional team, right? UH is our professional team in the islands. How cool would that be to have at least the UFL be out here, the XFL be out here in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I think it would be awesome. It would just give people more to cheer about, especially with the way that the UFL, what time that the UFL kind of lands in terms of months. It'll be right after, we get the high from the volleyball team being in the tournament, and hopefully the baseball team being in the College World Series. So I think that would be awesome for the people of Hawaii to experience another pro team.
I hope that would be the case. I know our Caesar would be quite happy about that, especially if they could get Kalani Sitake, though I'm not totally sure that he's looking to leave BYU at any point soon. Got to step aside for our first break of this second hour. When we return, we'll return to some basketball conversation and perhaps get to some text messages as well. It's also UHAD Confirmation Day. If you have any questions about that, or any questions that you'd like our Michael Lascaro to potentially ask during the potential presser after the confirmation meeting today, please shoot us a text at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. We'll try and get to them before the end of the show. Got to step aside. You're listening to Wake Up in the Den on 95.1 FM and AM 760.
With Paul Brecht and Michael Lascaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Paul Brecht, Zor Ned. No Michael Lascaro in hour number 2. He is off doing awesome Michael Lascaro things, going to the University of Hawaii to make sure that we are there as the new UHAD Matt Elliott, or soon-to-be new AD Matt Elliott, looks to be confirmed by the UH Board of Regents. Obviously, that meeting starts up at 9:30, and if we get any audio from that, we'll try and play it today. If not, we'll get it certainly to you tomorrow from Matt Elliott himself and potentially Wendy Hensel. As we've mentioned before, they are unable to, or have been unable to, make some public statements since Hensel officially announced that she would be recommending Elliott for the job. This would be their first opportunity, and with the excitement that has come around the hire, both from fans and from people in the know, when it comes to Elliott, I'm very curious to hear how Elliott is once he gets in front of the microphones and the media. Obviously, without Michael, I needed somebody else here, and somebody else, well, I love having Mr. Zor Ned in studio to chat some NBA stuff and some, I don't know if I'm going to call it breaking news, but some fun news. I'll use the exact phrasing that Shams Charania of ESPN said, where just announced that ABC will be airing the Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers starting lineup introductions tonight ahead of Game 5 of the NBA Finals. That's 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:30 p.m. Hawaii time for those of you keeping track. It's the first time the starting lineup introductions will be broadcast at the Finals since 2013. And Zor, we've talked about this a little bit on this show, and we've also talked about it a little bit off air, about the NBA kind of losing the pizzazz of the finals, somewhat making it feel watered down at times with the broadcast, the overall ads. We've talked about not having the Larry O'Brien trophy on the middle of the court like we had when we were growing up. Just I want to get your initial reaction to this news, how it feels, because this is something that I know that I have wanted for a decent period of time, where it's such a little part of the broadcast but can add so much for the viewer experience at home. What are your thoughts when you hear something like this? First time in 12 years, over a decade, that the NBA will be having their finals starting lineups actually on TV.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think that when I think of the NBA Finals, I think of the things that you don't get to see. I mean, even with the Super Bowl, you get the coin toss, you get the national anthem. That's like a huge deal. People bet on the national anthem, they bet on the coin toss. I think that like it just brings the fan that may not be able to get to the game, it makes them feel immersed inside of the game. And I think that, you know, the NBA's kind of gone away from that for whatever reason. EG has this thing he likes to say called "stick to the hits." I think that like that's a hit right there. You gotta make sure that you bring that back, and hopefully if it works. I know a lot of things have to go into factor, like commercial times and all that stuff that you have to pay for. But I think that's, I mean, if we can substitute one more minute of Kendrick Perkins talking to see some authentic NBA experience, I think that would be awesome.
I couldn't agree more. It's really, there are a lot of great things about the game of basketball that aren't actually the game of basketball themselves, and to allow fans at home to see that, it would certainly, at least for my experience, I know, improve it. It's something that I always look forward to. Even when we're here in Hawaii, I try and be in my seat for games for the starting lineups, whether it's men's volleyball, whether it's men's basketball, women's basketball,
right.
Even baseball, softball out here. I try and sit there and listen, because there is just something special to hearing that, and actually gives us a good segue into talking about the NBA Finals once again. Game 5 coming up tonight in a 2-2 series between the Thunder and the Pacers, where it has been back and forth. It has been everything you could really want from an NBA Finals series. I know we, going into the Finals, heard all of the consternation about, oh, the ratings should be down. It's two teams that nobody cares about. It's small market, this, that, and the other. And for those of you who enjoy basketball, who love basketball, we have gotten some phenomenal action through the first 4 games, where you make it a best-of-3 series. And in those, oftentimes, anything can happen. So I'm going to kick it over to you to start, where what are you looking for most? What is the biggest key in your mind for each of these teams should they want to come up with a win tonight? Obviously, the Pacers on the road coming off a heartbreaking loss in Game 4, opportunity to take a pivotal Game 5 and kind of atone for dropping it. And if you are the Thunder, after everybody or after a lot of people might have lost confidence in you following that Game 3 loss, all of a sudden you've set the table up that you only need 2 more victories and 2 home games to boot in that series. So what are you looking at as the biggest keys for each side heading into Game 5 tonight?
I'm looking at the adjustments made, the in-game adjustments. I mean, I know they've had multiple days to look at the film and see, come up with the standard game plan, but it seems like the trend for this series has been a game of runs. I mean, I've seen countless times where I look on the screen and it says the Thunder on a 9-0 run, the Pacers on a 14-2 run. I think that whoever can make the biggest adjustment within the game is going to be the one that ends up winning ultimately. I mean, we talked a little bit about it earlier about how the Thunder switched their adjustment was to have Shea come off the ball and be the primary screener to get a switch for Nesmith. I think that's huge. I feel like the Pacers need to find a quick little adjustment to get more players involved, especially Miles Turner. We talked about how he hasn't been shooting very well. I think that they'll probably go to him early to get him a couple easy looks because he's going to be a real valuable part in their championship run. If they want to win these next 2 games, he's going to have to show up big. We talk a lot about him kind of staying loyal and being there since the beginning of this run. And I mean, for the past 10 years, he has to have a really good game, hopefully within at least one of these final potential at least 2 games that they have next. He has to show up big, especially if they want to win this finals.
I'm there with you. I'm looking at Miles Turner. I know our Michael Lascaro has mentioned that he's dealt with some illness throughout this series as well. You know, has that hampered him at all? He needs to definitely be better than what he was in Game 4, just 3 of 10 from the field across those 30 minutes, a -6 in his time while committing 5 fouls. And with the Thunder being a double big lineup out there at times, they will need Miles Turner to not just space the floor, but also fight on the glass. You see in that last game, Thomas Bryant and Tony Bradley not playing, Obi Toppin getting the majority of the backup big minutes. And Toppin, while he has been phenomenal offensively and had a few pretty solid defensive moments as well, is not necessarily your typical big man, is not necessarily your standout small ball big, right? I've seen some people try and compare him to Aaron Gordon. I don't necessarily know if I'm there because I prefer Gordon's defensive capability far more to Toppin's. Obviously, Toppin a little bit more talented of an offensive player, though not sure how much more talented. Gordon a bit underrated in that front. You know, can Obi Toppin continue to be what he has been throughout this entire series as well? Because, and I say this as a former, or not as a former Knicks fan, oh my goodness, as a Knicks fan and a former Obi Toppin stan, this is exactly the type of team being Indiana, type of team that Obi always was going to thrive on, getting out in the open floor, being able to play in transition, being able to leak out and play fast, getting offensive rebounds, pushing it, and getting those opportunities against, you know, uneven fronts. This has always been Obi Toppin. He's just being optimized, and it brings up one thing where I want to ask you about the coaches in this series, where I have a lot of respect for Carlisle. I have a lot of respect for Dagnall, but Carlisle to me has been just otherworldly throughout this entire postseason. What do you, in your mind, what would another championship do for his standing all time, do you think? Because he has obviously that 2011 run. He has the run with Dirk and the Mavs, and that one was phenomenal in itself. This one almost feels a similar way, but also incredibly differently coded. What would another championship do for Rick Carlisle comparatively to maybe other coaches all time in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely starts a conversation, especially with him having 2 rings. I mean, the first ring he had is probably one of the greatest rings. I mean, probably
heavy.
Yeah, like I mean, who he had to go through sweeping that Lakers team. I mean, the Trailblazers were no slouch, and you know, playing against OKC with a young KD, Harden, and Russell Westbrook, and then finishing things off with a big three. I think that was huge. But I think that some of the similarities between that Mavericks team and this team, you see, I mean, J.J. Barea is kind of like T.J. McConnell in a sense where you have somebody off the bench that's unpredictable, that can swing a game. I mean, I won't compare Dirk to Pascal because that's kind of crazy to do. But
a little bit crazy, but I get it.
The game manager of having a Jason Kidd and having a Tyrese Halliburton, there's a lot of similarities in how both teams are structured. I feel like the Mavericks had every type of role player, every type of key piece to make a championship run, and I think that this is the same thing you see with the Pacers. I don't know where, if you off the top of my head, I can't see. Does that mean that he's better than an Eric Spoelstra or multiple coaches that have won multiple rings in the past year? I don't know if I could say that, but it definitely puts him in the top 15 to 20 coaches conversation, especially with the win. Especially with, I mean, nobody had the Pacers as their shoe-in for even Eastern Conference Finals. I think that a lot of people thought that the year prior was a fluke due to injury and whatnot. But I think that he's the work is showing for himself, and I think that the way he handles these next couple of games will kind of determine how the public views him and how the media views him.
Yeah, a ton of credit to the Pacers. I think that's an important point that you touch on, where a lot of teams, I mean, honestly, a lot of media outlets and one right here kind of looked at last year's Pacers run and probably thought yeah, okay, there were a bunch of injuries. It's a fun, spunky team that can get hot, but yeah, like a fluke, almost similar to that Atlanta Hawks run so many years ago, where they also went through the New York Knicks. And I thought a lot of people thought that this Pacers team would fall off. They have not done that. In fact, they actually, to me, they took last year's experience and they've parlayed it in many ways to get to the point that they're at. Their defense has been more than passable throughout the playoffs. Their rebounding ability, Michael talked about it in hour number one, their adjustments all of the time. It's been a very impressive postseason for a team who, I mean, just consistently gets disrespected, because even Pascal Siakam, who just never really gets talked about, but we've said it before, it would be a annual fourth-team All-NBA player should they have that level, right, where he might not be a top 15 player, but man, oh man, does he give you top 20 production year in and year out. Feels like he doesn't get hurt a ton. And then, of course, Halliburton, who is the most hated man in New York currently, but also just one of the most interesting stars in the NBA to me because of the way that he impacts the game. He's one of the few players who, yes, he does need to score. I won't go as far to say he doesn't need to score to impact the game, but somebody who really, really just is not your typical point guard in today's day and age. It's been fun to watch. Legacy conversations I'm not totally into, especially for players, especially this early in their career. But I am interested to see which of these two young dynamic guards puts their mark on this final best of three piece.
And I will say something that's interesting. I was talking about it with my friends the other day. Have you noticed that the two teams that lost the in-season tournament championship are the ones that are in the finals? Like the Pacers lost the first one last year, or I guess 2 years ago with LeBron.
Yeah.
And then the Thunder lost against the Bucks this year. So maybe Adam Silver was on to something there with that in-season tournament, was kind of giving us a preview of who could potentially be in the finals for year to come, or that could further many people's theory of the NBA's rigged.
Potentially. Who knows? No, of course, kidding. It's a good point by you. I like it. And also something about those in-season tournaments, by the way, they have stuff on their courts as well, so figure it out, Adam Silver. Oh, sorry, one more time, as I started off this segment with the NBA Finals for the first time since 2013 will have the starting lineups aired on television before the game begins, adds to the ambiance, adds to the overall production value, adds to my experience as a consumer. Hopefully the game lives up to what we're hoping it to be. The entire series has been fun. 2-2 after 4 games. Game 5 later today, 2:30 p.m. Hawaii time on ABC between the Thunder and the Pacers. We'll be thinking of our Michael Liscaro and his mental health through that. Hopefully this good deed of him going to the UHAD confirmation meeting helps him out and his Pacers as they look to take a pivotal game in this NBA Finals. We got to step aside for the bottom of the hour break. Don't go anywhere. We got much more to talk about here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Find a career where passion meets
You're listening to Wake Up in the Den with Paul Brecht and Michael Lescaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, AM 760 and 95.1 FM, and streaming on hawaiisportsradio.com.
Welcome back to you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. Thanks so much for tuning in this and every weekday morning to Wake Up in the Den on 95.1 FM, AM 760, and streaming live on hawaiisportsradio.com. And today, streaming live on YouTube. Thank you so much to Zor Ned for joining me for the entire show, and especially for this hour number 2, as we talk all things NBA. We'll also potentially talk a little bit more UH Athletic Director confirmation, as that meeting has officially begun over at the University of Hawaii. Matt Elliott, potentially the next AD, the athletic director at UH. That's who Wendy Hensel, the president of the University of Hawaii, has recommended for the role. They got a special meeting today, and that's where our Michael Lescaro headed off to begin hour number 2. So make sure to tune in tomorrow. We'll have audio from that, as most likely we have a new man in charge for the athletic department here at UH. And I want to say thank you so much to Caesar, who has continued to keep the conversation going in the YouTube chat. Reminder that you can get in on the conversation by shooting us a text at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. Or leave us a comment in our YouTube chat. It helps us out. It boosts the video so that we can find even more beautiful people and continue the conversation, whether it's about Hawaii sports, NBA, so on and so forth. And for those of you who are tuned in, not on demand, but live here on terrestrial radio, you just heard our Ku'ulei Agbayani give a check-in from New York, my home state, where she is awaiting the next leg of her trip. She's off to Europe for an extended period, we'll call it, and that's why you have me here in the head seat, Zor helping me out on many of these days. Michael Lascaro also will be in the chair for many of these days, and we're sending all the best to Miss Agbayani as she takes a well-deserved vacation after what was an insane year of athletics here in Hawaii. As I mentioned before, Caesar keeping the conversation going, and he brought up something earlier in the chat talking about how and the Kings will ultimately be regretting Tyrese Halliburton as their biggest regret if he ends up winning a championship, how they ended up choosing De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis over him, and then Hallie obviously has become phenomenal, or has been phenomenal in Indiana. He was phenomenal in Sacramento as well. But that's kind of where I want to kick things off, Zor, as we'll talk a little more trade conversation as well. Yeah, bring up Ku'ulei for a reason. When it comes to these types of trades, you always are taking big swings in the NBA, and this was a big swing for the Kings. Obviously, a couple of years back, they had to make a decision between a couple of star guards. They already had De'Aaron Fox on a big-time contract. They had Halliburton coming in off of a phenomenal rookie season, and they ultimately end up moving him. When you look at that deal now, obviously hindsight being 2020, how does it feel? Like, is it going to be something like Caesar says where, you know, maybe it is one of their all-time regrets, or is it just part of the business? Sometimes you trade away good players while you take these swings. How would you feel if you were a Kings fan watching this NBA Finals?
The way I see it is that, like, a lot of these trades are one side going for win now and the other side going for longevity. I think that, like, if you look at the grand scheme of things, yeah, okay, of course, that Halliburton's in the finals right now. He's playing tremendous. But, I mean, the year after they made the trade, the Kings made the playoffs for the first time since, you know, maybe the 2000s. So I think that in the grand scheme of things, it was a good trade for them at the moment, and now they're not doing too good. And I mean, at the time that the Kings were in the playoffs, I mean, the Pacers weren't really known that well, but they were. I don't think they had a good year that year, I would say. But then the year after that, the Pacers did well, and I mean, then the trade worked out for them. I mean, we could even talk about the Paul George trades. In the moment, it's like, yeah, the Clippers are making this massive trade. What are the Thunder doing? And now look at the Thunder. I feel like it's one side is always going to have a win now aspect, and the other side's going to be kind of a slow burner. And the team that it looks like is not going to do much with the trade kind of ends up doing better. I think even, I mean, to throw back to many years ago when the Celtics and the Nets traded for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, that ultimately ended up the Celtics getting Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You never know how these trades are. Yeah, you never know how these trades are going to go, and you kind of have to. One team has to go for a win now aspect, and the other one has to look themselves in the mirror and be like, okay, this trade could lead to other things. So I don't think that the Kings can. I mean, obviously, looking at it right now, yeah, you're going to be like, oh, we could have had Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, as a Sixers fan, I've seen the Tyrese Halliburton things when we were supposed to trade Ben Simmons. I mean, it's the hindsight's 2020 always, but I think that, I mean, the Kings, I mean, right now they're not really in that good of a space. But, you know, there's always, you hit and miss with these trades. I think for what the Kings needed at the time, it was a good trade for them, and they got to the playoffs. And, I mean, obviously they lost to Steph Curry, but, you know, you win some, you lose some.
They were lighting the beam for a full year,
yeah.
So it was pretty fun. Brings up a conversation about our Ku'ulei Agbayani's team, though, who made a massive deal over the weekend. The Orlando Magic pushing their chips to the middle of the table, acquiring Desmond Bane from the Memphis Grizzlies. Somewhat of a shock throughout the league as the Grizzlies seen as a team with a pretty solid core of young players. Obviously, Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., they just draft Zach Edey. You go on and even further than that, obviously. But this opens up the door, or at least opened up the door a little bit to conversations throughout the league of, are the Grizzlies now selling? They get 4 unprotected first-round picks, which obviously all unprotected picks are not created equal when you are making trades like this. We learned that last year with the New York Knicks, and obviously this year somewhat similar of a price for Desmond Bane to come on through, 4 first-round picks, first-round pick swap, and then obviously some players in there as well in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Cole Anthony. I know our Ku'ule Agbayani is sad about losing Cole Anthony just from an emotional side, emotional connection, but overall an exciting deal for the Magic to add a player in some legitimate shooting to a team that desperately needed that scoring. How did you take this deal in when it popped up across your phone for the first time? Do you think it was an overpay? Is this just the market now? Where's your head at when it comes to the Magic pushing in the chips to acquire Desmond Bane?
I think that I was shocked by the amount of picks that it took, because then you have to think of what's Giannis going to be worth at the end of the day. But I think that it's a good
firstborn child.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for both teams. I think that KCP is a really good plug-in piece for any contender team, and I think maybe obviously the Grizzlies need a lot of work in terms of hiring a coach and a lot of other things. But I think that the way the Grizzlies might be thinking is that they had a top-tier rookie this year. Obviously, his season got cut short due to an unfortunate injury. But they might be thinking, okay, well, he can do essentially what Desmond Bane does. And now if we get another piece, we need a Swiss Army knife type of piece to kind of help us bring us back to where we were. And I think that maybe, this is my theory, they might be trying to fill in the void of Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks kind of gave them a punch, and maybe KCP could kind of bring that to them with the championship experience, winning with the Lakers and the Nuggets. I think that would be good for them. And then having Cole Anthony off the bench would be tremendous for them because, back in the day when they had Tyus Jones to kind of run their second unit, they've lacked that in recent years. And for the Magic, obviously Desmond Bane brings shooting. They were one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the league last year. So it creates more space for Banchero to get to work, and another scoring option. They get younger. Having Franz Wagner and having Desmond Bane is a really solid backcourt in terms of the East and getting over the hump of at least getting out of a first round.
It's certainly interesting because, one, you have 2 Eastern Conference fans who are not going to be willing to give up their spots towards the top, or hopes of their spots towards the top. But this, I think, to me at least, is a very clear example of another team in the Eastern Conference looking at 2026 and saying, well, 2025, 26, and saying that this is wide open. And maybe it's the disrespect of the Pacers, or maybe it's just the confidence in your top-end talent. But at the end of the day, it does feel that way, that 2026, a lot of these teams in the East are going to think, this is our year, this is our chance, it is wide open. This is the type of deal that you have to make, especially if you are the Magic, who they've been sitting on these picks for a while. They've kept their gunpowder dry up into this point. At some point, you need to fire away, and Desmond Bane, to me, honestly speaking, is one of the more underrated players in the NBA because of his ability to shoot, his ability to score the rock. He's not as bad a defender as people want to make it out to be. I saw some people being like, oh, well, if he's getting traded for the same price as Mikal Bridges, he better be the same defender. Mikal Bridges isn't as good a defender as he was back in his Suns days. He's still a good defender, but he's not like this out-of-this-world defensive MVP, Depoy type of thing. He's passable, a little bit more than passable at times. I think Bane can get to that point. If not, he's already there. Really like the move for the Magic. And at the end of the day, like I said, first-round picks, not all created equal for contenders. It's why I wasn't necessarily all up in arms about the Knicks giving up so many last year for Bridges, where if you are a contending team, you think, okay, that's pick what, 24, 25, 26 if I don't win the title? you can live with that, especially with the Stepien rule, where you can't trade picks every single year. You're going to still have some of those cost-controlled options in the first round that you can add quality pieces to your rotation. So I like the swing for the Magic. I think it provides them flexibility still as well, because in this deal, like, you can say whatever you want about the picks, but the Magic didn't give up any young, valuable player, which they still have a lot of, whether that is a Franz Wagner, whether that is Desmond Bane, who gets flipped again at some point, whether that is you trade a Jalen Suggs or one of those players of that caliber. They still have a lot of assets when it comes to actual players to make deals. So I think the Magic are incredibly interesting moving forward, albeit in what is, I think, an overall disrespected Eastern Conference. You hear national people talk about it all the time, about it being the weaker of the two conferences, which there are totally fair points and valid points to that. But I do think we have gone too far at some point where we have, I mean, look at it right now. The Indiana Pacers, who nobody thought would have a chance to make it this far, I mean, are on the brink. They are 2 games away, halfway there to their first ever championship. And for a lot of people, I wouldn't blame them if they favor the Pacers at this point. So a wide open Eastern Conference, a wide open NBA. We're looking at what, our 7th different champion in the last 7 years. Parity has been paramount in the NBA quite recently. So yeah, looking forward to next year, obviously, as our teams are in their off seasons. But Game 5 of the NBA Finals later today, 2:30 p.m. Hawaii time on ABC. It's 8:30 p.m. Eastern for those of you keeping track on the continent. And a really big one, obviously, winner of Game 5 in a tied series typically goes on to win that series. Both teams licking their chops at that opportunity. We got to step aside for our last break of the day, but don't go anywhere. We'll close things out here on Wake Up in the Den.
Dial Electric.
You're listening to Wake Up in the Den with Paul Brecht and Michael Esquero on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, AM 760 and 95.1 FM, and streaming on hawaiisportsradio.com.
Back here on Wake Up in the Den, Paul Brecht, Zor Ned, closing things out on this Aloha Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in, either live or on demand. Also, for all of you who have taken in some of today's show on our YouTube channel at Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Be sure to subscribe, leave a like, drop a comment, whatever it may be. Thank you so much for tuning on in. You are part of the beautifulest of all the beautiful people for keeping the conversation going here on HSRN. It's the boys for the next few weeks as our Ku'ulei Agbayani hits the road for a vacation that, honestly speaking, I am quite jealous of. She's headed off to Europe and all throughout the continent as she gets to experience a ton of fun stuff. And as an avid traveler myself, I was sure to tell her to take plenty of photos that she could share with us via social media. Zor, what's your travel been like throughout your life? Obviously, as a basketball player, you got an opportunity to travel a little bit as a collegiate athlete. Have you been a big traveler throughout your life? Are you somebody who would like to travel some more as you get older? Kind of, what are your thoughts as a travel guy per se?
I have mixed thoughts. The first time I ever went to California was when I got to college, playing for UH. When we ended up going to play in the Big West, not Big West tournament, but like the Big West games. My first year at UH, we went to Australia. That was the first time. I think I went outside the country when I was younger. We went on a cruise. But besides that, I haven't really been too many places. My family's from Philly and Virginia, so I normally go there in the summers. I went to Canada at Hilo for the first tournament, and that was pretty cool. I want to go to Canada. I want to go to Canada again, probably like in Toronto area, just to see what Drake's talking about. And I haven't really had too many bucket list things. I am jealous of some of my former teammates that are playing in France that get to live that life. That's pretty dope, just to be in a different country. Obviously, like for me, I would rather want to be in a country that like kind of still speaks a little bit of English, because being somewhere where you have no idea what anybody's talking about is kind of tough for me. So if I had to pick another country to go to, it would probably be Canada, just because the similarities, and I've heard a lot of great things about Canada. I have some family out there too. So in terms of travel, that's probably all the stuff on my bucket list. I have a friend that right now he's in Bali. And he's like, all of his stuff that the most he's paid is like $3 for stuff. So he's really hype about that. Shout out to my boy James. But yeah, no, I think travel is cool. I don't have any immediate plans right now to travel, but hopefully in the coming years I can get into some stamps on my passport.
I'm looking forward to that for you, because I am a big travel guy. Like I said, I was very excited for Ku'ulei. I got an opportunity to go to France, oh my goodness, almost a decade ago now. And it was one of the most beautiful trips that I've taken. It was awesome to have the cuisine out there, and that's one of the things where part of the reason why I've been able to, or why I enjoy travel so much, has been seeing different communities, different cultures, whatever it may be, throughout both the world and the United States. I've gotten a chance to travel a bunch because of, shout out to my dad, and happy belated Father's Day to everyone out there, both those of you who were missing your dads yesterday, those of you who, had your dads right around, everybody who might have a tough day on Father's Day, and everybody who loves the day quite a bit. I hope you were able to find some sort of happiness in that day. But shout out to my dad, because when I was 7 years old, I got an opportunity. He asked me, he's like, oh, do you want to go see all the Major League Baseball teams at their home stadiums? And I was like, oh my God, yeah. So I've gotten a huge opportunity throughout my childhood and some of my adult life to go see some of these places. And that sparked my love for travel. When it comes to going overseas, when it comes to different countries, it is really, really cool to see the similarities and the differences, kind of like you mentioned, where you go to Canada and you do have some of the things that are the same, but it's also a full cultural difference. I mean, honestly speaking, it's happened to me here in Hawaii. Coming out to Hawaii, it's very different compared to some of the cities on the continent, some of the places I've been on the continent. So yeah, big travel guy, very excited for our Ku'ulei Agbayani, who will be gone for the next, say, 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so, and you guys will be stuck with myself, Michael Lascaro, Zor, whenever we can, steal him out of his very, very busy schedule, and so much more. Just to close things out here today, one more time, obviously, Matt Elliott hopefully going to be confirmed as the next University of Hawaii at Manoa athletics director. Wendy Hensel recommended him just over a week and a half ago, a special session today where an executive session actually has begun per Brian McInnes of Spectrum Sports News. Wendy Hensel and Gabe Lee are in attendance. The Board of Regents entered executive session to discuss the candidate, and also there are some UH athletics personnel in the building, UH band director Gwen Nakamura and UH women's basketball coach Laura Beeman at this confirmation. So some of the heavy hitters out there, including our Michael Lascaro. Be sure to tune in tomorrow to hear all from Wendy Hensel, hear from Matt Elliott, and get the latest vibe on potentially the newest University of Hawaii athletic director. Just about 30 seconds here, Zor. I'm going to get your prediction for Game 5 here of the NBA Finals tonight. Who do you got and why?
I got the Pacers. I think that they're going to come back, make some adjustments to how they're guarding Shea down the stretch. And, yeah, that's the Pacers. What about you?
I got the Thunder tonight. I think they take care of it at home, but I do think we're going 7. Either way, we got to close it out here. Thanks so much for tuning in. For Zorned, I'm Paul Brecht. Thanks for listening to Wake Up in the Den, and we'll chat with you tomorrow.
Home of the Dallas Cowboys, KGU AM K236CR Honolulu is the Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760.